Beep, 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 beep. Hello? I found a really good article, right? Okay, so I thought we'll have a look at this today. It's about the police. It's always fun, isn't it, to talk about the police. Buy me a coffee, send me some money. Hell's wrong with you? Help! No, let's just think about the Warrior Teacher Programme. Men! I keep saying this. Where are the men? We need more men on the Warrior Teacher Programme. So anyway, let's get on with this because I couldn't help but notice it. It's written by Charles Moore. If you've never heard Charles Moore speak, he has the most wonderful English voice. Reminiscent of, Julian Fellowes, Downton Abbey type thing, which is marvellous. I always like listening to Charles speak. So Charles put an article in the Telegraph on the 27th. Dubris, as usual, yeah. And I think it's really interesting and has got quite a bit to say. So I thought I'd do a bit on it because, going back a few years, I pitched to the police, a police force in the UK, I pitched to them to do their training, right, on EDI, okay? Now, I didn't get it, right? I didn't get it. But what was interesting was the process of putting it together. Because I got to see their figures on hate crime. Right, and it was hilarious. I know it shouldn't be, but it was. They're so all over the shop, the figures on hate crime. Because I don't know about you, I get rid of it. Hate crime is pointless. Get rid of it. Nonsense, right? Just get rid of it, right? You beat the shit out of someone and call them a fag, therefore you get 6 months more in prison. How about we just give everybody that beats the shit out of people full stop 6 months more in prison? Treat it as an aggravator. Just stop. All right, hate crimes, waste of time. Anyway, so I didn't get it. I don't know why I didn't get it. There's probably a million reasons. I ended up with a couple of gender benders showing pictures of mutilated fannies and willies, apparently. I saw somebody a few months later was like, you never guess what we ended up with. I was like, well, that was to be expected. So, let's have a look and see what's got to be said here by Charles, because Charles is saying that the British police are failing because they have forgotten why they exist. And this is an interesting one to me because I've mentioned a few times before to you the idea of ally groups. These groups you have in, you go into work and you start work somewhere and you're going to be like, I don't know, you're going to tap things into a computer and talk to people about fish. I don't know what you do, right? But you get in there and all of a sudden people come along and, hello, would you like to be a member of the LGBTQI hands, knees and bumps daisy ally group? Or would you like to be a member of the, people from Samoa who've got 3 toes group? That's what they do. God, I'm on a wander this morning. That's what they do, innit? They put together these groups so they can moan. So they can have a good moan, And stick pictures of shit all around the workplace. Just got nothing to do with it. How do we ever let this happen? It's like we've turned workplaces into creches. It's just, come on, we're going to exploit you. But look at the pretty picture on the wall. That's obviously an extreme example, but I can't. It just makes me laugh. I don't know why. Happened to a mate of mine. Right, somebody rang up about the blue. He'd never spoken to this person ever before. Right, he never met him. And said, and the phone rang and he picked it up with a voice on the end said, excuse me, but I've heard you're gay. In the workplace. What? We're the women's group, but we'd like to start a subsection called gay. They are literally insane. My mate was like, yeah, I don't think so. How did they find out he was gay? It's interesting, isn't it? See? This stuff's dangerous. Right, okay, so Charles goes on to say, once upon a time, foreign actresses come into London would tell reporters, I think your British policemen are wonderful. It is worth asking why they said it and why it is not said so much nowadays. Obviously, the enthusiastic, just visiting film star rarely knew any detail. They were picking up good impressions and illustrating the effect of good reputation, right? Appearances mattered. The police were highly visible in the streets and people liked what they saw. In their distinctive hats and smart uniforms, policemen looked well. Because of height rules, now relaxed, and the headgear, now seen much less often, they stood tall. They were imposing authority figures. But authority figures who were driven by policing by consent. They do it with our consent, right? Unlike other countries. Different, see? But they're also there, as Charles points out, to ask them directions, to say hello to, it was all that type of stuff. And he feels that not much of this survives. As someone who walks around the Westminster village most weeks, I am struck by the appearance of the armed police. They lounge against walls or railings, sloppily dressed, never alone and vigilant, always together and chatting. They do not emanate pride in their job, therefore they do not inspire confidence. It's an interesting take, Charles. It's one worth worth me asking of all of you who are watching or listening. What do you think? I mean, has your view of the police changed? We know, for example, that many of the GC women who come together have had particular problems with police in particular towns, but then had exemplary treatment from the police in other towns. You know, I know when I was at one of the marches, the police escorted us after the march to the local pub. They were fine. They did well. None of what Charles is saying. He's not saying this is how it is. He's saying this is what I see. But I think what's the most important part for me is what he's saying about these ally groups, these sort of, affinity groups, as I call them. And he continues, there are other problems. The public sometimes feel unsure whether the police are on their side. When Black Lives Matter mobs, daub statues, or Extinction Rebellion, Just Stop Oil hooligans attach themselves to roads, trains, or motorway gantries, the police often seem neutral, intimidated by alleged rights waved at them by the protesters. They pay little attention to upholding the right of the general public to go about their business. They seem to forget they are working for us. Well, I echo that, Charles. I do. I'm sure others will too, in terms of what you're saying there. An even stranger phenomenon, and here it comes, is that significant groups within the police spend their lives attacking the service that pays their salaries. Now, this is very much in line with what I said about, you remember the one about Manchester Museum? We're going to better watch it unfold. Oh dear. They're going to get curated to death by misery muppets. So, a new Policy Exchange report, which has come out, blurred lines. This is about a look at what's going on in our culture. But Policy Exchange do produce some good work in that field, even if you don't agree with their politics. Blurred line draws attention to the more than 200 staff networks within the police in England and Wales. Some of those informal groupings do little harm. So, it's the police crochet circle. The police Twitchers group. You know what I mean? Yep. Or if you want to get really obscure, the police group for leaf peeping. Leaf peeping. And the people that do it are called leaf peepers. Anyway, so you got that type of thing. Nobody cares, for the philosophy group. We got collected stamps. Not how it works, right? So he says that within his network, to criticise, for example, Cleveland's small police vegan network would be taking a sledgehammer to crack a nut cutlet. But some staff networks see it as their business noisily to tell police and even politicians what they should be doing, pitting identitarian politics against the general interest. Businesses need to get rid of these affinity groups. They need to go. There should be a no. I did one the other week, didn't I, about, here's 10 things you can do if you want to get woke at your workplace. And I think affinity groups is one of the main ones. It's like, right, we want to form an affinity group. No, go back to work. Thank you. That's it. That's what you should say. So in the case studies at the Policy Exchange report, they single out the Met's Black Police Association, Met BPA, for erroneously stating it as a charity without being charity registered. What? So they've been saying they're a charity when they're not. That's extraordinary. Right, within the force, the Met BPA was considered so negative that a separate black network set itself up. Good gosh, could this be cultural Marxism at work here? Divide and conquer, boys, that's how we get them. Another staff network, the National Association of Muslim Police, keeps trying to change the official language on terrorism to prohibit words like Islamist or jihadist. Right. See what happens when you set up these, sort of voluntary carbuncles on the backside of your business or your organisation. Don't do it. It also joins Islamic political campaigns outside the police force. The National LGBT plus Police Network, publicly up campaigns for officers to take part in pride marches in their uniforms, thus breaking rules of police impartiality. But we know that this has been going on. The highly professional Sir Mark Rowley became Met Commissioner last September, and here's the good news, he is working hard to reform and lead the Met out of its defensiveness, which it seems to have done, The speed of modern politics suggests that a royal commission will be too slow a means of achieving the root and branch review he seeks. And I think you're right, Charles. We've got to get, punctuated equilibrium's killing us. But neither, he says, neither party has much sense of direction on the subject. There does need to be some way of looking at the problem overall. The first thing needful is to distinguish different types of change. Right, this is very interesting. Very interesting. The inevitable, the good and the bad. To pursue my analogy of the red telephone box, I haven't read that out, so it doesn't make sense, does it? Its reassurance was indeed wonderful, but in the era of mobile phones, no one needs it. What needs keeping? What needs changing? That's the very, he's saying here, what are we going to do to get this infection out of the police force, which is his particular concern. So he's then saying about how Home Secretary Suella Braverman and Stephen Watson, the firm new Chief Constable of Greater Manchester, who I've mentioned before, met to discuss the problems last week and to see whether or not there's any way that they can get back from being quite defensive to being, the police that we need. Not necessarily do I think they'll end up being the one that Charles mentioned at the beginning in that kind of almost idyllic thought about the British police. That is how I saw them for years. Leadership's the biggest problem is what he's saying here. And I think he's saying the Met's a complete mess. It's elements which are clear about their purpose. Counter-terrorism, for example, and homicide command have excellent results. So he's, credit where credit due coming from Charles. But it suffers badly from the sickness of so many current institutions. It fails to hold fast every day of its life to the simple but not easy purpose of its existence. And I think that's a vital last line from Charles there in the article, which you can read in the Dubras. What the hell's Manchester Museum doing hiring a social justice manager? Right? We got businesses will provide our staff with breakfast. Oh, we've got a gym in the basement. Oh, get in the bin. Get back to doing what you're supposed to do. And the money that you spend on this crap, give it to your staff. Then they can choose whether or not they want to go for breakfast and choose whether or not they want to go to the gym. It's all cobblers. It's like they used to do years ago, where they start a business and they build the houses around it, and they'd have people that worked in the business wouldn't own the houses, the business would, but they'd live in the houses owned by the business and then go to work for the people that own the business. Yeah, we're not going back to that. Creep with your socialist ideology. Do your damn job. Why is that so damned hard? So that's it. I thought it was a good article. I thought we'd just mention it to you, because it really caught my eye, Charles's take on it. So please do go and read it. It's from Charles Moritz in the Telegraph. Other than that, I'm going to go and do some other things now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll do something. So I'll see you later. Have a good day. Bye-bye.